We're talking about the throttle. I know it's been a long time coming, but I got a lot to say, so here we go. Welcome to Strider Trees. Brought to you by Land Helmets. The short and sweet of it is this. If you like climbing on mechanicals, if you value extreme durability, if you don't like messing with adjustments for friction, if you like to climb on smaller diameter ropes, like closer to 11 millimeter static line, if you want to be able to switch back and forth between MRS and SRT very easily and rapidly, if you value quickly being able to midline attach and detach, like if you like to go through a lot of redirects, pass your rope around, do tricks like that, if those are the things you value most, then I suspect you will love this device, especially once it's broken in. Now, if you're someone who only has 11.5 to 11.8 millimeter ropes, if you really don't care about taking something off midline, if you want something that is absolutely the lowest friction going up and the easiest to release, something real snappy, then I suspect you probably won't like this one that much. So I'm going to dive a lot more into the details here. There's a little bit of wiggle room on those statements, but so stay tuned, we'll just keep at it. So the Buck climbing device runs about 500 bucks. It's beautifully made. It's a lot of really incredible engineering. I got to talk to the creators of this. They put a lot of time and effort and thought into it, and you can really see it in the manufacturing. The thing is stout. My biggest impression on this is it inspires a lot of confidence. It feels solid, it locks in solid, it doesn't feel like it's gonna get bumped and you're gonna be accidentally dropped. So in some ways, if you're a new climber, if you don't feel super confident about your gear, if you're just coming over from hitch cord and you're kind of afraid about mechanicals and how fragile they look, if you've ever had a zigzag, link break on you or something, then you might really appreciate the feel of this in that it inspires a lot of confidence. Like, you really don't feel like there's any way you're gonna end up, sliding down because this device failed. I even occasionally use MRS when I'm maneuvering through the canopy, or if I'm gonna go up and set a tying point. Sometimes I'll just climb through the canopy MRS, advancing my tying point ahead of me. And I like that I can do that pretty easily here with this device. There are a couple things, however, in how it actually functions, how it feels when it's on the rope, when I'm on the tree, and some of the habits that I've got into with my other devices that I can't use with this device, and that's made it so that I actually don't like using it that much in the tree. I've been using it for a couple of months. I really wanted to like it, and there's definitely some things that it does super well, but they don't outweigh the usability issues that I've experienced, and it's not gonna be something that I change to from my usual system. So it works like this. We've got this lock mechanism here. This little bollard slides to the left and then pulls and rotates like that, and then that releases the top. Now, one of the cool things about this device is that basically all of your life-saving friction happens right here in these cams, and this is just a super solidly built device. These are stainless, and I'm told that they should be a replaceable part in the future, which is great. I like to see things be replaceable. A lot of guys use these mechanicals, use these devices for a long time. And also this other friction element down here, this green, that should be replaceable as well. Now, when you go to put it on, I just showed you how you release it. The bottom part here is just this little push pin. So you pop that out, and then it goes on super easy. I'll try and do it facing the camera. If you turn the rope in like that, you should be able to slide it up into the rope super easily. And then that goes in there. Click, click, watch this little pin there, snap, there you go. So now you're on. Simple as that. One of the concerns I had early on was just how easy it is actually to misconfigure, however. Obviously, this is good, it's secure, it's pretty straightforward. I can see that's locked, I can see that's locked. I have that audio, the clicking sound, and you have the visual reference of this little lock unlock portion here. But, and this is the but, this rope passing through here, there's a couple other places it could land and the device can still close. I'm gonna try and show you guys here what that looks like. So this, push that little pin in, this comes up. That's all well and good. That comes up there. Now, this little pin right here, it's pretty easy to have the rope go here. And then when you close this, this actually acts a little bit different now. So it'll kind of mostly work as you expect, which is the weird thing. It's certainly not going to drop you to your death, because this again is where most of the friction happens. But what I found is that I did this a couple times kind of by accident, and you end up with a lot more friction. And this guy can get pulled past there, and then you get a lot less friction, which is again kind of weird. Your mileage and how it responds to you and your rope will vary a little bit. This is kind of a small diameter rope. A thicker diameter rope, it does that a little bit less. But when that gets locked in that position, it just starts doing funny things. It's not what you expect, but it's kind of what you expect, which is what I just thought was weird. So again, it's not a huge safety issue, but it'll start acting funny and not how you want it to if you end up in that position, especially if you're in the MRS, because with the MRS, you basically take this point of friction out of operation. But in SRS, you're counting on this friction point to make it usable. So I'll show that again as I swap it back into position. I'll pull that out. This rope, and there's a little indicator here, so you should pay attention to that. The rope path should be there, and then it comes up and locks into place. Now I found it's a little bit easier to do that without a carabiner in, because that pulls it in once, it makes it want to pinch. Now to get it off, again, it's easy if you know the right trick. You just take it here, tilt the device away so that the rope is kind of doing this little bend through here. I don't know if you can see that, like that. There you go, little bend. And then slide it that way. Pops right out, super easy. The first few times I tried, I was doing it all wrong. It felt like a pain, but actually it's not bad at all once you know the trick. Let's talk about a couple other things here. So this is the tending point, which is nice and solid. It's big enough that you can actually fit a full-size carabiner in there, which is nice. And it tends really well. It rides on your neck. I would say the friction, like the resistance in tending, is very comparable to like a hitch cord with a rope runner, or with a rope wrench, or like the Rope Runner Pro. Very similar sort of tending resistance, but very little sit back, which is one of the things I value in a device. I think the gold standard of low resistance for going up is the Unicender. This thing, when you're tending right here, almost no resistance. Of course, that can be a little bit scary because look how it comes down. It's not really grabbing. If you go here, it grabs, right? Basically no sit back and no resistance. And this one has a little bit more resistance than any of those as I pull up. You can't feel it, but I can feel it. It's definitely more drag on the whole rope. Again, that might make you actually feel more secure, because you know you're fighting something, and you know that as soon as you sit into it, notice there's zero sit back either, but it is more drag. So when I'm going on a long ascent, I feel that thing pulling on me a little bit.
This video is made possible by Land Helmets. These guys are new to the arborist industry, and they are serious about safety. Land Helmets is a direct-to-consumer manufacturer of helmets, and their arborist model is ANSI certified and has a bunch of great features like a replaceable headband, slots for aftermarket earmuffs, and a dial for easy fitting. The visor is great too. It's got enough space to wear glasses under and prevent fogging with good airflow, while somehow providing an excellent seal against sawdust. Their customer service is awesome, and they can get you replacement parts as needed. These guys really care about making safety accessible, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a better helmet at this price point. Coming in at $70 for the bare helmet, or $110 with the visor, it's a solid value. And you can get an extra 15% off with the link in the description. If you want to support this channel and our sponsor, go ahead and click that link below. Thanks again to Land Helmets for sponsoring this video.
So my primary gripe, and I'll start with this, is that I don't like how it functions on the ropes of the size I normally use. So this is an 11.8 millimeter, I think it's either a 32 or 48 carrier strand, Kern mantle static line that Edelrid makes. It's a great line, it doesn't milk, it's got really nice properties. I've been super happy with it and how it functions on most of the other devices. Now, this is not a great line actually for the Rope Runner Pro, because it does tend to flatten a little bit. But on the whole, this is one I've used a lot and I like. I'm using this rope as an example, but I've tried a number of other 11.5 to 11.8 millimeter ropes. And what I found is this is pretty consistent. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of an ascent here and show you guys. This rocking motion that they use to release the rope, you'll see it described in their literature, and I get the idea. What I've just found is that with these medium-sized ropes, it takes a lot of effort to break the friction, and then so much so that I'm usually pulling on it really hard, and then once it releases, it goes a little bit fast, and then I let go kind of hard, and then it sets hard, and then it's even more effort. And what I've found is that I've had a really hard time making the release of this thing predictable for what the kind of climbing that I want to do. I've had trouble kind of doing those nice gentle drift and land on spars. It's been a little bit tricky when this is fully weighted. On a limb walk, it's fine. It's no big deal. I can walk out with it when it's mostly released. So as they say, you want to grab it, put mostly pressure on your pinky, and try and rock it that way. And it does go eventually, and it's actually fairly modular. Like, I can modulate the friction pretty carefully when I'm really paying attention, but it's a lot of effort. You got to really pull on it. So I went out and bought Yale Blaze 11mm. This is probably the most popular small diameter climbing line. A lot of guys love it because it's pretty lightweight, but it is a little smaller than most devices will tolerate well. But I went and bought 160 feet of this specifically to use on this device, and it was a lot better. Now, it was annoying having to buy extra rope after spending enough money on a device. And because this is still so new, it's actually kind of right on the limit of what I can feel comfortable with as far as the friction interaction, meaning sometimes when I release it, it keeps drifting, and it drifts for a little ways. Eventually it snags up, and I can make it catch a little faster by pulling back on that. But now that this is broken in, this 11mm, again, it's kind of right on the limit. It's really smooth and it's very progressive. So I can release it just a little bit or a lot, and then it slows down kind of gradually. So this will actually interact very much how I expect and how I want it to. And then maybe as this wears in even more, I'll go to a slightly bigger rope. But for now, this is the only one that I feel good climbing with at all if I'm doing a big open canopy. I'm gonna do about a 25-30 foot belay, and hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit the kind of drift I get. I'm only about 170 pounds, maybe 185, 190 with all my gear on. So I'm on the lighter side. Your mileage may vary. So I've got my feet up against the tree here. So it's not all my weight, and I can actually release this pretty gradually and comfortably. Now, I'm gonna let a little bit of heat build up, and so you can see how this thing works. See that? That was no hand, and it drifted about 3 feet. So, now again, I can tilt it back and get it to engage, but you can see how even after 10 feet of coming down, I do get a little bit of drift on this thinner line, and this is the only line that makes it feel and operate how I want it to in the tree. Another issue I have with this is, again, this is kind of a small gripe, but it comes back to the way I've learned to do things, little efficiency improvements. When I'm working on a spar like I've got here, I'll be tied off, choked around the tree, and I've got my SRT device there on the tree. When I go to advance, go to climb up the spar, I have my flip line, and I want to release this to get enough slack in it to be able to flip it up the tree. Now, with a device like the Akimbo or the Zigzag, or some of these with relatively easy to collapse top parts, the Rope Runner works for this too. What I'll tend to do is I'll come in like this, and I'll pull on this rope and let the rope itself collapse the top of the device, and that makes it super easy to pull slack into the system. All I gotta do is pull it, right? So I can get slack in here just by pulling the knot against the device, like so. See how that's starting to open up? It's really not the case with this one. When I go to pull these, they just jam up. Like it won't release. I have to actively tend the device, which isn't a huge deal. It's more just a habit I'd have to get into. You can collapse the device by pinching here and on top just past this, and I can get plenty of slack easily. Like it tends really easily that way, but I'd have to do that and then pull slack out like this. This brings me to another point about taking slack. Now, generally pulling slack through anything, you just kind of collapse it. So the rope runner, the Unicender, akimbo, you just slap on the top and start pulling out. And if you do that, it actually still kind of works, but it's a lot of effort. You get a lot of friction. On this device, you have to grab it here, and you want to collapse it all the way. See how it goes click, click, and then that releases it completely. Now I can pull slack out pretty easy. So I've got this set up as a moving rope system. And if you look at it, look at how close those two lines are together. They almost look like one. There's a little tiny gap in there. It makes it hard to reach up and grab above me to pull slack through. And you'll notice, see how it's bunched up right there? I'm about 15 feet up, maybe 20 feet up in the, well, 15 feet up in the air. And with the Unicender or the zigzag, the slack would have just tailed right through, no problem. But this one just doesn't do that. There's just a little bit too much friction inside the device for it to release going up in a moving rope system. One of the reasons I love the zigzag is just how smoothly the rope falls through it. Obviously, once I get a little bit of height to me, this thing kind of tails itself as long as I've got 15, 20 feet of rope below me. That just isn't the case with the Buck. The Buck device has too much friction in it to tail itself. However, unlike the Buck, this zigzag, if you touch the top of this, you start moving quick. It doesn't take much, and it releases hard and fast. So what I've got here is a little bit of sap on this line. It's a pretty new line otherwise, and it's not a big blob of sap, it's just something. And as you can see, it's made it really hard to release. The bottom's totally loose. It's this top part. It will release, unlike the akimbo. Maybe not. Yeah, there it goes. So it will work its way through sap eventually, and then it cleans itself out pretty effectively. So it doesn't stay sticky like the akimbo can. You get a little sap on that little lower lip and it really stays sticky, but it's nowhere near as tolerant of sap as the Unicender and the zigzag is going to be. Quick recap, if you really haven't used devices much at all and you're not super comfortable with them yet, this could be a good option. It inspires a lot of confidence, it's very secure, it's super solid, it should last a long time. If you're really comfortable and familiar with a device like the rope runner or the zigzag Unicender, I expect that at best it would be a hard transition to this one, and you may find that you like it, but there's going to be some things that are going to be tough for you.